A lot of people think that's a real video, but it's not. That doesn't mean it's not cute, it just means that it's not real. China goes full insane with what can only be described as like the most agile, parkour, talented, skilled, quadro dog wheel thing that I have ever seen. These are some examples of what happens when you ask artificial intelligence to turn your favorite type of alcohol into a house. That's margarita. I can see it. Here is a video of what I can only assume is the wife of a multimillionaire walking around with her robot companions while she shops. Wow, is this the future of the ultra wealthy? Look at those Tesla robots just following her around. OpenAI has introduced Operator. They're catching up to Anthropic's computer use. This is getting heated. Okay, this guy, Jacob Brandes, has like completely hijacked my brain for the last 48 hours. There's a new AI that uses throat vibrations to work out what somebody's trying to say, so no need to actually make sound anymore. And there's a real plan to establish the first solar-powered data center on the moon, and they're gonna do that next month, in February. OpenAI has another big announcement this week. For you historians out there, we're gonna talk about how artificial intelligence is being applied to archaeology. Remember all that drama about Göbekli Tepe on Joe Rogan a few years ago? Like, I wonder if we can get to the bottom of that mystery. There's some new research about how AI might help us respond to the global threat, antimicrobial resistance. One of my Patreons sent me this. It is the uncommon perspective of AI from somebody in a wheelchair. As much as I am worried about us not harnessing the power of AI right, it's nice to sometimes just step back and realize how much better it's making life for many people. Tech Explorer covered the problem with too many AI-generated patents. We're going to talk about when exactly you should draw the line. When does it go from being an actor to an AI-generated avatar? Alberto Romero is back. He talks about how DeepSeek is Chinese, but its models are from another planet. All right, what do you guys think about this little penguin? He has been going viral. He's super cute. I didn't really think about this video as being AI when I first saw it, but when I sit down and stare at it, I am getting some vibes about the AI. There's something about the finger. His fuzzy little fur, as cute as it is when he takes that bite, feels like it's moving in a way that's slightly abnormal. And that straw kind of goes around his beak in a way that's hard to describe. But you know, the reflections on the spoon, the fork, the knife, they do seem to reflect the hand fairly well, and the kind of belly of the little penguin when it goes over the spoon. There was plenty of debates all over social media how real this was, but it's fake, but it's adorable nonetheless. All right, I was totally captivated by this new big dog. It is so just robust and loose and agile. I can't even believe it. That one-footed spin and like, what is that thing? Balancing with one leg up and how quickly it can kind of readjust its balance. I mean, this really feels like an acrobat. That spin where it lands up on two wheels. I don't know, maybe it's just growing up and only seeing like just like cars and ATVs and a lot of things that just didn't seem organic. And now to see a robot this organic, it gives me that same feeling I got when I first saw Boston Dynamics like running around. But this one is like, it is real parkour style video. This is nuts. And if that's a police dog, it will chase down any person jumping fences, like, you know, cutting through cars. That thing is insane. I mean, can you imagine if it's delivering packages or fast food and it's just like flipping over everything? Here's a breakdown of what different alcohols would be if they were houses. Wine, I see that. Looks like a vineyard. Margaritaville. I mean, come on. Of course you're on the beach with that lime yellow. Whiskey in the country. Absinthe. I don't know alcohol that well, but it looks like a haunted house or something. Pina colada for sure. Bourbon. I don't know. Gin? Too modern. Cider looks perfect. Rum, I get that. Maybe a little bit more pirate, actually. Where's beer? Trailer park? Or Jägermeister for part 2? One can only imagine. So if you're so rich that you're used to having people walk around when you shop just to hold all your packages, you can now outsource that to robots. See, as you can see, what I'm going to assume is a fabulously wealthy woman is walking around a high-end mall with her shopping companions, able to carry many bags, Louis Vuitton, Gucci. I can't really name any other high-end brands. Balenciaga, I think, the one the Pope was wearing. Maybe Yeezys. Man, I legit can't mention many. I should know more high-end brands. Rolex? Tiffany's? Here's another woman spotted, this time with a full set of Tesla Optimus robots following her around. I would say the uniformity of the 4 robots that Tesla offered this woman is maybe a little bit more classy. You know, the Unitree robot's just I don't know, a bit cheaper looking, I suppose, a little shorter. But I do like that she brought 2 different form factors of robots, so I don't know, maybe 6s. Oh my gosh, we got some more updates to Alan's conservative countdown to AGI. So it's still at 88%, but he tacked on 2 more posts. Ooh, I didn't expect this. XAI's Grok 3 Frontier model made the list. Look, he was able to ask Grok 3 to put a ball inside of a tesseract and let it bounce around correctly to see if it understood 4-dimensional physics, and it could. Dang. Oh, and the announcement of OpenAI creating Operator. I guess it's called a QA. I haven't heard that before, but yeah, computer use agent. That's going to be my new term for the week. Look at that. OpenAI, DeepMind, and Anthropic now have QAs. Okay, so let's dive into that. So this is OpenAI's announcement. They are introducing Operator today. It is a research preview of an agent that can use the browser to perform tasks for you, available to pro users in the US. Now, I am not a pro user. Oh, but if you do subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/DylanCurious, then maybe we can get that monthly number up to $200, and then I could afford a ChatGPT Pro subscription. For as little as $2.99 a month, you can support this channel, and you can also hit that join button on YouTube if you're watching there. All right, let's check out an example of this Operator thing. So find me a family-friendly campsite at Joshua Tree this weekend. So now you get an entire web browser that pops up in the thread, and look what it's doing. Navigate to the campsite, entering information, selecting the broader area, entering dates, and then just book it. Let's see how this works. Does it know your credit card? That's scary. Could it? So according to the video that OpenAI released, it does prompt you at that point. So then you log in. But then I'm like, are you logged in on a virtual machine inside their system? Is the password definitely secure? Is it just watching your screen, but then does it know? Am I willing to give over like all of my profile stuff to this yet? I mean, it certainly seems convenient. I don't know if I could program it to do tasks for me. What kind of tasks exactly I need? I don't know. I'll have to see how this all plays out. But here we are in 2025, and we have some really interesting months ahead of us with these kind of tools. This guy, Kurt Jamungal, he's got a great YouTube channel, does amazing interviews, but this one in particular, a couple months ago, Jacob Barandez has this idea that everything we always talk about with quantum mechanics, like the wave function, the wave collapsing, I guess even all the stuff that came out with my new podcast with Matt Strassler, which is called Waves of an Impossible Sea, might be something that isn't the end of the story. Maybe there is no wave function, right? He argues that it's still particle-like, it's all classical, but what it's doing is a stochastic process, this sort of random particle falling apart type thing. So you can think of a stochastic process as like a bunch of random events happening over time. I usually think of the stock market just like going up and nobody can predict it, or up or down, just like randomly almost. The drunkard's walk, where you're like, I don't know which way he's going to stumble. That's like kind of a stochastic process. You know, weather patterns where there's like all sorts of like probabilities coming together, like all the atoms in all of the atmosphere sort of bouncing together to like make the weather. And then you have these discrete periods of time or seconds or minutes or whatever, where you kind of like move, like everything's in one place and it kind of evolves to the next state and the next state, these sort of time steps. And he seems to think that if you take some of the quantum mechanics axioms and you kind of throw them away and restart with a stochastic process, just using classical physics, you can evolve it into explaining like the collapse of the wave function, but it's not a collapse of the wave function. And then he pokes these holes, like if you have a sealed experiment and somebody, you know, collapses the wave function, but someone outside is like unable to, you know, connect with the box, does it like magically like go through the box and understand how to collapse everything? Like, how is the universe connected that way? And this might make more sense. But here's where I had this crazy little aha moment. I mean, it's probably not an aha moment, but it's just something that like got me super excited to share with you. Okay, have you seen this image before? And that made me think, what if all of this, the reality, the Big Bang, like everything around us, everything that you know is the universe, everything that seems like reality, was something like that, but much more advanced. Imagine something like Sora or Veo, like these like video models, but they also in the future say they're 1,000 or 1,000,000 times more powerful and they understand physics. And it's still a diffusion model, but it creates all of that from sort of a random noise, and then it like iterates and iterates and iterates. If that kind of a thing happened and it evolved sufficiently intelligent virtual synthetic things inside of it, like little characters, like maybe like humans, and they had enough complexity in their own brain, and there was sort of a part of that reality that was actually defying entropy, and it was evolving in a way that was more structured, and they started to look around. Like imagine you do something like Sora, but the character is so well simulated that it gets an awareness of what it is, and it looks around inside of its environment, starts to do research. It might think that it actually has free will, even though it probably wouldn't, but it would still feel that way, and it would take actions and such. And it would probably learn about the environment something like quantum mechanics, wouldn't it? It would be a diffusion model. So it like makes me wonder if somebody who's got like way better math skills than me could like explain if that's even like remotely possible, or if that's just like completely crazy because I'm missing like a ton of physics. I'm gonna try to reach out to that guy and see if I can do an interview, and I'm sure he can like just put me in my place. But it was kind of a crazy thought, like this whole quantum mechanics thing. What if it's just a simulation that makes our reality, and it comes from a diffusion model type thing? Maybe I should like, let me know if you guys want to hear more about that. I don't know, sometimes I go crazy. But this is the guy's name, Jacob Barandez, and I've watched this video and this video so far. I'm gonna keep watching these. I've watched this one twice now, but I don't know. I just like, I was having trouble sleeping. I was like, this is crazy. What if this is what the reality is? It feels instinctively like right to me. All right, back to the news. So AI has now used throat vibrations to work out what somebody is trying to say, even if it can't hear the voice that they make. All right, so here's the gist. AI is actually helping people who struggle to speak, like people who might have had a stroke or Parkinson's, by figuring out what the vibration in the throat means in terms of what they're trying to say. And then, of course, if it can already translate a language like English, then it can translate from throat vibrations to English and speak for somebody just through the vibrations. But it's more than that. There's also so many other cues when you're communicating to someone, the way that they make the eye contact, maybe the way that they move their hands. So this model does understand the vibrations in the throat, but it's also smart enough to consider other factors like the time of the day that it is, the kind of emotions that are pieced together in correlation to what the vibrations say. And for some people who go through that really unfortunate thing where they start losing muscle control, man, this could be a big thing. That could really be helpful to them. I mean, it's really tough when you start losing the ability to communicate to others. I mean, like, it's just right up there with seems like I could imagine some of the worst things that might befall on us. And I don't know. It seems like a really powerful model, and I'm glad somebody built it. There's a new plan to put a data center on the moon. Here's an artist rendering, representational image only. So yeah, I didn't know there would really be a market for people who needed to store data on the moon, but it turns out there is. The first customers kind of blows my mind. The state of Florida, not sure what they need to put stuff on the moon for. The Isle of Man government, don't even know what that is. The AI firm Valkyrie, don't know why they would need to put anything there. And then, of course, the pop rock band Imagine Dragons. We're going to put a server on the moon, and we're like, do we need a cool song up there? Like, we might as well store it on the moon. It will be called the Freedom Data Center. Seems like a very American name. It'll be powered by solar energy, uses naturally cooled solid-state hard drives. I can imagine it's pretty easy to cool stuff on the moon. I mean, no atmosphere, right? Or maybe not, actually. Maybe it gets super hot when it's, like, facing the sun. That sounds like a ChatGPT question. Does the moon get hot? When the moon's surface is exposed to sunlight, it can get very hot, reaching temperatures of 260 degrees Fahrenheit. This is because the moon has no atmosphere to absorb, reflect, or distribute the sun's heat. Wow. But in the shadow, during its night, the surface loses heat very rapidly and gets extremely cold, dropping to about negative 280 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow, talk about dramatic temperature swings. I hope that Freedom Server data center can handle both sides of it. I wonder if we can turn this into a Florida man meme. All right, OpenAI has reportedly decided on a new economic blueprint to share with the world. All right, so it basically argues that we need like a ton more money. I think maybe this is actually a little bit older. It's about a week old, so maybe this came before the big announcement of $500 billion. Maybe it was part of like what convinced Trump to help put that all together. But of course, that was like Oracle and SoftBank and Microsoft also, so I don't know, but it's drawing parallels to America's success with the automobile industry. OpenAI argues for a national approach to AI governance with a straightforward, common sense rule approach that balances innovation and public safety. Stressing the need for democratic values in AI development, avoiding patchwork regulations, and ensuring Accessibility. OpenAI envisions a transformative force for good coming from its artificial intelligence projects. And in parentheses, they didn't write this part, but also like trillions of dollars. End parentheses, advocating for policies to prevent misuse while encouraging innovation and global leadership. I mean, I get it. Like, I agree with what they're saying. I don't know. I guess it's good they published it. All right, you history buffs, let's talk about archaeology. So this paper was written that talks about how machine learning applications are being used, and it's pretty freaking interesting. Okay, so if you go back to 2019, AI started to get pretty well used in archaeology, mostly for something called artifact classification and structure detection. So they had a bunch of just like, what kind of bone is this? And it would be like, well, we know what bones look like that come from this kind of dinosaur and this kind of dinosaur, and this one looks like it fits into that category. Seems super useful. And you can kind of do the same with structure detection. So when you find like pieces of wood or something that looks kind of like carved or crafted or connected in some way, and you just have like a little corner of something, it can kind of think, oh, what kind of a structure would have been here, knowing like what part of the world it's in and what kind of like image that it got from what you dug up. But now we're starting to move into a more predictive modeling and even text analysis. And it's giving us more of a power to like decide where something probably is. Like, we found all this stuff over here. There's a good chance that if that really is correlated with this kind of, I don't know, dinosaur or like society or culture, then we also should be digging over here, or this is what we'd expect to find. And then we find more, and then it reinforces the model, and it gets better and better at predicting like where to dig, what to find, and we start learning way more about history. But along with that, the paper also points out how many like serious gaps there are in some of the classification and prediction so far. You know, it's not really like Anthropic and OpenAI are just like, out of that $500 billion, let's like pour most of it into archaeology. But it's still so many open source projects, and there are budgets for these kind of things, and they're doing what they can. And I think it's pretty neat. It does feel like artificial intelligence is going to be a great way for these like complex archaeology digs. And maybe it'll find a bunch of stuff that we already overlooked. Let's talk about antimicrobial resistance, harnessing AI to respond to the global threat. All right, so here's the problem. You're probably aware of it, but we have these microorganisms, and they are becoming resistant to antibiotics. Antibiotics are a true miracle, but when they kill 99.99% of bacteria, there is that little bit that is still resistant. It usually has some kind of super rare mutation that makes it so that it doesn't get killed. But then that's the one that can multiply again. So over time, we end up getting all this bacteria that's completely resistant to the penicillin and antibiotics that we once could depend on. And the ones that can resist are the ones that are starting to like pop up the most. They end up like in hospitals. And when people are in hospitals and they have diseases like HIV or tuberculosis or malaria, then this can be like a compounding factor that makes it really hard to manage the underlying disease. This is especially a problem with lower income countries with poor water quality. So in response, the World Health Organization has launched a global action plan, and researchers from Durham University have developed a new AI model. It is called AMR Policy GPT, and it is an AI tool that pulls insights from global policy documents to help create better AMR action plans. So, unlike some kind of a generic AI tool like a ChatGPT, this is a model that's been trained on, it's focused, and it has a special data source of up-to-date, context-specific information about where these like antibiotic-resistant bacteria are living, who's being infected, how it's moving throughout the world, and it allows policymakers to make smarter decisions. And overall, I think it's kind of a cool product, mostly because it's just one of those like true global solutions. I just feel like no matter how rich or poor the country is, everybody wants to know where in the world these kind of bacteria are, how many people are infected with it, what antibiotics work, which ones don't. So I'm hoping that it brings like a future with more collaboration, less competition, and it drives like true global health outcomes. Like, we can eradicate some diseases, and it would be nice to control the antibiotics in a way where it's like overfishing, right? Like everybody fishes all at the same time, all the fish are gone, there's no more to like make more fish, and then everybody's screwed. We can balance it, right? Like, you can have antibiotics, but just use them sparingly, don't overuse them, don't let the resistant bacteria like multiply and take over and become the dominant species. It's one of those world management problems, and a tool like this might help a lot. I think this is actually a deepfake video, or it was like a photograph of him and then he used a deep fake. I'm not entirely sure, but he says in the video that he's using it to just communicate, right? I believe him. He linked to this information about seems like a pretty hard disease to deal with. What he's dealing with seems to be a progressive neuromuscular disease. People with this experience issues with balance, coordination, movement, and life-altering loss of mobility. So this is somebody who can use deepfakes to actually communicate in normal ways and can help him. And it's not the normal, like, deepfakes are just being used for misinformation, like they certainly can be. But it did kind of make me think that there are just kind of good examples too, where you can communicate better. It's still your thoughts, it's still you, but it's also something that makes you communicate at a higher level. Makes you, like, if somebody comes in and they're super charismatic and they're just a good speaker, but they don't have great ideas or they're manipulating, and someone else has amazing thoughts, but they're just not that person, you know, they don't have maybe the same just like social skills and ability to, in the same way, this kind of deepfakes in a weird way can even the playing field. And these are just the thoughts of somebody who's in a very different situation from me, and they are really excited about artificial intelligence, or at least they can imagine how it's going to keep making their life better and better from here going forward. And sometimes I don't know, I get kind of stuck on the negatives and like the risks that we have, and I thought it was a good perspective, and I appreciate him also being a Patreon supporter and like enjoying this content. So as you can check him out, maybe help him get to 10 subscribers. I mean, 8. I was stuck at 8 for a little while there. It feels really good to get into double digits. All right, Alberto Romero has some thoughts about DeepSeek. It is a Chinese model that seems to be really competent, comparable to the top OpenAI models. And this model is like not only just on par with OpenAI's top tier models, but it's a fraction of the cost to run. They released it for anyone to use for free. Because it comes out of China, it probably does have certain levels of censorship that you might want to be aware of, but the fact that anybody can build on top of it means that it is going super viral. Like, it is being used in a lot of apps right now. And they also rolled out the R10 model, which is a version that teaches itself reasoning without human data. So it's kind of like DeepMind's AlphaGo 0, but it's for AI logic. I didn't realize that at first. I'd seen some people talking about DeepSeek, and I was like, okay, it's like a Chinese version, but it's a new model, but there's nothing super innovative about it. But this whole, learn from reason makes it pretty special. And it's not just cool tech. It's kind of a geopolitical game changer. It's something that the U.S. should be very aware of. And it seems like from a geopolitical point of view, the U.S. was banking on OpenAI to maintain its lead, but it feels like you could argue DeepSeek just actually went past them. It is now the new king of open source. It works really well. It's dirt cheap. And the implications are that there's a couple ways. I mean, you saw the robotics that we looked at earlier today, and now this, it feels like kind of like China's maybe ahead of the US, or at least in some categories and not other categories, but it is getting very competitive out there. And also just a model that has the ability to reason. It can start reasoning in ways that maybe we're not going to understand. It's starting to challenge the idea that human cognition is even the gold standard anymore. Starting to feel like one of those like last moments where we can actually still keep this thing under control, but I'm sure we'll just keep going with it. All right, so AI generated patents are kind of an issue right now. You can imagine the patent office is always getting pretty bombarded with bad ideas and good ideas, and they have to sort through a lot. But now with artificial intelligence, you can imagine if somebody sets up a really specific model and it can just invent, say, like new materials or some kind of mechanical thing, or it studies like blueprints and what kind of inventions have been patented in the past and starts producing a lot of work. It could be a system that could produce more patents than, I don't know, maybe all of humanity, like in the last 100 years, just like, boom, just process that whole thing out. And should really the person who invented that model get the patent rights to all of the patents that it came up with, or can it use that as like, or should we only allow it to sort of use that as a stepping stone and then a human has to like add to that, or how does the patent office deal with it? So some Stanford researchers are now exploring how AI is affecting the clarity and usefulness of patents in general. And so far what they found is that AI can make drafting patents cheaper. They make them more accessible. It also risks amplifying errors and creating misleading or incomplete disclosures. It even found that flawed AI-generated patents often pass the scrutiny of examiners due to weak enforcement and disclosure rules. So, like, there's a lot of people getting patents out there that probably shouldn't be. So I don't know. Now, what do we do to fix it? The researchers suggest stricter standards, better training for patent examiners, and of course, using artificial intelligence that has been trained on patents that have passed but were bad to get better. So now it's going to be like they're recommending basically the patent office trains this big AI model to see which patents should or shouldn't pass. And then there's going to be other patents, generating machines that people are going to use to try to get patents to make money or slow down their competitors or whatever. So now even the patent office is like in this kind of like, competition. It's crazy. All right, there's some new debate about where we should draw the line on an AI actor versus a human actor from a movie. And you could just swap in different actors, right? Just like you pick your actor. And it got me thinking like, man, I guess in the future, you're probably going to watch some kind of a movie. Say you want to watch Interstellar, but instead you want a different main actor, right? Maybe you want Jennifer Aniston to replace Matthew McConaughey. And now it's just a different vibe, Or imagine Hugh Jackman in the Titanic, Morgan Freeman as the Godfather. So maybe you'll buy the movie, say The Godfather, to say you buy it or rent it or something online, and it's $20 to have the movie. And then you can pay an additional $5 depending on the A tier actors you want, or $3 for the B tier. Or there's probably a bunch of random faces that you could put in there for basically $1 more or something. Probably $11 if you want Taylor Swift to be the star. But then there's also just taking an actor and de-aging them or putting a hat on them or removing their mustache, which is still pretty much the same actor, but it kind of gets closer and closer to an avatar, and it's there's not exactly a clear line there yet. So this article is called "When Does an Actor Stop and an AI Begin? What the Brutalist and Emilia Perez Tell Us About AI in Hollywood." The Brutalist has drawn attention this week for its use of artificial intelligence to refine some of the actors' dialogue. Emilia Perez is a musical crime comedy and also uses AI to extend lead star Carla Sofia Gascon's vocal range. Her singing voice was blended with that of a French pop star who co-wrote the film. That's pretty interesting. Oh, I didn't even think about that. If they cast me in a musical and then they cast somebody who can actually sing for the singing parts. Dylan Curious, the musical. But yeah, I guess the argument's mostly just about transparency. I mean, the filmmakers, they were transparent about these two movies. The Brutalist and Emilia Perez. Actors gave consent. It's just the questions kind of linger about where the line between human and AI artistry lies. It is getting blurrier by the day. And we'll see if there's much room left for the human touch in the future. There's a lot of things that I wonder if we've seen peak human. In my opinion, it was Steve Jobs was the greatest entrepreneur when I was growing up. And then now I guess Elon Musk just has so much influence. He's basically the president and runs so many giant companies that most people would say him. But the next Elon Musk might not be a human. I feel there's going to be an agent, something that comes out of Oracle, and it understands innovation, it understands how to build businesses, it understands how to attack verticals and keep the momentum moving in a way that even Elon Musk couldn't. Maybe the greatest business people of the future, the next Warren Buffett is going to be an AI agent. The next Taylor Swift, the next Kanye West, all AI agents. I mean, there could be a completely fake Mr. Beast, someone who just comes up, they're not really a human, but they just have this aura and they're spending money and they're making crazy videos and they're challenging people, but they just don't exist anywhere. The AI agent could even go film all these videos with people, or maybe they're all just AI generated. However it figures out how to captivate hundreds of millions of people, it just does that, and maybe there's just no person there. Also, I don't know if you guys caught this on CNBC, but CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, said that, quote, "I have never been more confident ever before that we're close to powerful AI systems. What I've seen inside of Anthropic and out of that over the last few months led me to believe that we're on track for human-level systems that surpass humans in every task within 2 to 3 years." All right, love it if you join my Patreon. Well, check out this last video. It did, I guess, a little bit less than ideal. What if AI already took over? We're on track for human-level systems that surpass humans in every task within 2 or 3 years. As you can see, it well underperformed my average. click-through rate wasn't that great, so maybe it wasn't like about the algorithm punishing me. Maybe I just didn't do a good job with title thumbnail. I try not to just blame the algorithm all the time, because a lot of times it's not. It's just human stuff, and people blame the algorithm. But yeah, totally failed with the 18 to 24-year-old group. Didn't it pick up one female watching the video? And like not that many people who were unsubscribed saw it. Did make me $17, so you know, that's cool. But when you consider these videos take me like 3 hours to prep, 2 hours to film, 6 hours to edit, means I make about $1.50 an hour. Sounds about right. But it's a passion. I mean, I'm not complaining. It's like a passion project. I love making these videos. I love the discussions. I appreciate all of you guys in the comment section. In fact, let's go down there. Let's see what some of the comments were.
Research pioneer Andrew Ng just...
That's one of my favorite parts. Oh, we already have a fourth law of robotics. When they're good, their eyes are blue, and when their eyes turn red, they're bad. Yes. Like how you have a check engine light in your car. Maybe all robots should have like red eyes when you're like, uh-oh, it's broken. Most terrifying like thing you could imagine. Oh my gosh. It's gonna be wild when the CEOs realize they're about to be replaced as well. Actually, I kind of like that world. I like the world where the employees of a company can replace the CEO with AI. I mean, if you're trying to save money, the CEO usually sucks up a lot of that revenue, a lot of that expense. All right, what kind of style of music you feeling today? Calypso? That sounds like a good genre. Oh my, okay.
Can't wait for my own robotic ground. Changing from artificial intelligence to living intelligence. We definitely have people with mental frameworks have been developed over time. I'm glad you included that piece. We already have a fourth law of robotics. When they're good, their eyes are blue. Eyes turn red when they go bad. It's going to be wild when the CEOs realize they are about to be replaced as well. It's gonna be wild when the CEOs realize they are about to be replaced as well. You already have a fuck law body greyhound. Eyes turn red when they go bad. It's going to be wild when the CEOs realize they are about to be replaced as well. Eyes turn to be wild when the CEOs realize they are about to be...
Okay, I don't know what to say about that song. I don't know. I didn't really understand what the genre was when I clicked on it, but that was crazy.